Thank you to Mr. Peachy for suggesting this video. Fallout New Vegas is probably one of the best Fallout games, if not the best Fallout game there is. But what you may not know is the story behind the game, how it came to be and what Obsidian's original intentions for the game were. Allow me to explain. For starters, I want to start way in the beginning, right back to the development cycle. After the critical success of Fallout 3, Bethesda looked to create a sequel, but due to the fact that they were too busy with Skyrim, just a little game like that, they had little time to work on the game. So they reached out to Obsidian to make the game for them. Obsidian was given 18 months to develop the game using the same Gamebryo engine that 3 was built off of. However, because of that, it presented a new set of challenges for the team. They had to make a new game from the old game. JSwayer, the lead designer, was quoted as saying, "For a long time, we didn't really know the technology very well, because we weren't going to do a new render or anything. It was basically like, well, this is Fallout 3, but not as good." The whole team really focused on making the game stand out from 3. So essentially the team had to understand the new development tools, build a new world, write who knows how many thousands of lines of branching dialogue, make new quests, create new characters, improve old mechanics, and add new mechanics, and much more. They had to do all of that in 18 months. Now, I don't know if you know game design very well, but it usually takes 1 to 2 years, on average, right, to make a full AAA title. If that. Amazingly, they managed to pull it off. In 18 months, they managed to improve Fallout 3 and create an entirely new game that stands out from its predecessor. However, despite the game's success, it wasn't exactly how they wanted it. Just from a quick Google search, you can pull up concept art, or even just go to the Fallout Wiki and look at cut content from New Vegas. There is a shit ton of unused guns, armors, quests, etc. Some cut due to technical issues, or just some because of time constraints. One of the game designers, Scott Everts, one of the two, I don't know, sorry, Scott, was quoted with saying, "It would have been a lot different if it was PC only. We had to simplify, so we had less stuff that would bog down the game engine." He goes on explaining how initially he wanted the world to be in separate zones with a wall around everything and a tower in the middle, hoping that would cause less performance issues because everything would be all divided up. So both Everts and Sawyer go into a lot more detail about the whole development of New Vegas than I'm giving here now. If you want to read more on this, the article that I found this on is in the description, along with every other source I will be discussing in this video, all in the description, so go check it out if you want to find out more details about the stuff I'm discussing now. So, with the development cycle out of the way, that begs the question, how much would change if they had more time? To be honest, probably not much. Based off of what I gathered from my research, New Vegas is essentially what they wanted to make. However, if you were to really look into it, New Vegas is a somewhat watered-down version of what they wanted to do. In fact, JSwayer released a mod called the JSwayer Mod. It basically fixes the bugs and problems the game launched with and sets the game up in a way it should have been released in the first place, or at least how Sawyer believed it should have been released in the first place. It adds a load of, now finished, cut content back into the game. In fact, if you're looking for a very in-depth review of the JSwayer Mod, Redditor 1080 Pizza, fantastic name by the way, has a very interesting post explaining it all. Mr. Pizza states, "It makes the game more challenging by tweaking character progression, health, damage, loot scarcity, and items in a way that is far more interesting than simply increasing the in-game difficulty." Link to the full Reddit post in the description. Now, I would be mistaken in not mentioning Fallout Van Buren, the original Fallout 3. For those who don't know what Van Buren is, it's essentially the codename Black Isle Studios, Black Isle being the OG Fallout developers, which, by the way, Obsidian was formed by former Black Isle studio employees, and one of those former Black Isle employees that went to Obsidian was JSwayer. Just a tidbit of important information there. So Black Isle was making their version of Fallout 3, Fallout Van Buren. But due to the company going under, it was never released. We do actually have quite a bit of information on Van Buren. It would take place in Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, and Utah. And some of the places we'd see in game would be Denver, Hoover Dam, and the Grand Canyon, just to name a few. Notice anything familiar there? But skipping around locations of Van Buren and going to some plot beats from the game, Van Buren was supposed to show the war between the NCR and the Brotherhood of Steel. If that sounds familiar, then it should. That war was mentioned in New Vegas, and the repercussions from it affect the actual game. Another bit of interesting info was the inclusion of Joshua Graham, the Burned Man. In New Vegas, Joshua Graham was essentially the main focal point of the Honest Hearts DLC. He was part of the Legion and was set on fire and thrown into the Grand Canyon because he was to blame for the Legion's loss at the First Battle of Hoover Dam. In Van Buren, he was supposed to appear as a companion. However, this time he was going by the name of the Hanged Man. The player would find him still alive hanging from a tree, burned and covered in bandages. Now there's plenty of other things about Van Buren that I'm not mentioning. In fact, if you really are interested, you can check out the full wiki page for more detail. Again, everything in the description. So all in all, if I were to make an assumption based off of those little similarities, then I think it would be pretty safe to assume that if Obsidian had more than a year to work on New Vegas, then New Vegas would essentially be Van Buren fully realized in FPS format instead of the OG Fallout turn-based combat. And honestly, if you ask me, that sounds pretty interesting. I only read a few parts from the Van Buren overall stuff, but it's very similar to New Vegas. And if you really even more think about it, New Vegas would be technically a sequel to Van Buren. So if Van Buren ever gets made, I doubt it, highly doubt it, that would technically be a prequel to New Vegas, because the events in Van Buren affect New Vegas, and that's when we start. So pretty much, if New Vegas had more time, it would be that game. Honestly, that makes a lot of sense to me too. If you really think about it, Black Isle Studios essentially became Obsidian. A lot of those employees who were working on Van Buren back at Black Isle worked on New Vegas, and a lot of Van Buren stuff ended up in New Vegas. So that really makes sense to me, right? And I don't know if you agree with that. Please, if you agree with that, let me know in the comments. But, what's that I hear? What would I personally improve about New Vegas? I hear none of you asking. What would I improve about this game? If Obsidian came to me like, hey, I know you're that YouTuber, right? The one who made that Fallout theory video that everyone watched, and then a lot of people subscribed to you, but then it exploded and you didn't upload any content, and now no one watches you, and you just cry yourself to sleep because you're like, I just want to be happy. Yeah, you're that YouTuber, right? Yeah. Okay, so this crazy idea, right? We're gonna release a new patch to New Vegas, and you have full control over the patch. First of all, that'd be fucking amazing if Obsidian ever did that. It never would happen. I'm just saying. Hypothetical situation here. Anyway, moving on. What would I improve about the game? If they ask me, what would I improve about the game? First of all, I would flesh out the map a bit more. I currently live in a desert, so seeing nothing but beige is something I do a lot. In fact, I just looked out my window, and I'm not making this up. I am 100% serious. A tumbleweed just rolled by. I am not fucking kidding. I swear to God. I swear to God, a tumbleweed just rolled by as I looked out the window. Proof! Beige! Anyway, getting back off topic a bit. So changing up the scenery would be a great change. And it would just be little things, like adding more ruins of old buildings and such like that, or just more overall environmental storytelling. Maybe a splash of green here and there, Spice it up a bit. I would also make the strip bigger. The strip, to me, seems so underused to its full potential. So I would like the overall strip to be expanded, so it's not just one street. Instead, it could be multiple streets, with the one main strip holding all the casinos, and the little side streets could be fancy bars or high-level gun shops and stuff like that. Because once you get in the strip, it should be something to behold. The best guns, the best armor, just the best everything should be on the strip. I would also like to see the Legion expanded. When we're introduced to the Legion, they're set up as the quote-unquote bad guys with very little redeeming factors. Slaves, burning people, crucifixions, little stuff like that. If we could, for instance, see a Legion-controlled town and see what life is like under Legion control, and not just get the camps in the vanilla game. Because we hear little things about how the Legion could actually be good. In fact, there's dialogue from Cass saying,
"There's some caravans that deal with the Legion, yes. And as much as it pains me to say it, any caravan marked by the Legion is safe as houses. They guard their roads, their supply lines. Even fiends would hesitate before going after any trader dealing with Legion. I am. If NCR took the same stand and committed patrols to the roads, then I'd think that'd solve a lot of their problems right there. But they don't. Caravans get butchered in the Mojave all the time, like mine. And so fucking close to Vegas, you could see it from the wall. NCR tries. It's just that trying doesn't mean a whole lot when you're paying your respects to the dead. And Legion, from what I've heard, they don't do the stop tolls on the roads or in the outposts like some NCR quartermasters do. You're lucky if you turn a profit sometimes. If some new officer gets assigned a route, the fees just get worse. Much as I hate the Legion, Caravan life would be a hell of a lot easier if they ran the roads. Well, as long as those companies were run by men. And that's the biggest issue I see. And it's a shame. But I think there's people on the NCR side who feel more strongly than I do. Some caravans deal with the Legion now because the security. If towns could get the same protection, a lot more tempting than you'd think. A bunch of people would be willing to side with the Legion to not have to worry about fiends and boomers and powder ganger attacks. It's not hard for some folks to sell freedom when the alternative is worse. Especially if being with NCR is going to get you on a Legion cross. All right, then.
Cass's bae, by the way, just saying. She makes it sound like they have some good qualities about them. So it wouldn't be too far-fetched to believe there could be some actual good things about the Legion, you know? If this is implemented properly, then we can get an entirely different perspective on the faction overall, and not immediately look at them as the bad guys. Now, this last part isn't exactly a game change, and more of something I personally would really like to see, but it never will, but I'm just saying, make Fallout Dust canon. Mostly because I just love the concept. For those of you who do not know what Fallout Dust is a mod created by Nagrim04. Hope I'm saying that right. And the premise is this. It takes place 20 years after the events of New Vegas, and you are not the main character anymore. You're simply a survivor. And you have to create your own story. So speaking of story, something happened to the Mojave, resulting in utter chaos. And all that you knew from the base game is essentially gone. I'm talking like the apocalypse happened to the apocalypse. The cloud from the Sierra Madre found its way to New Vegas. A radioactive dust storm engulfs the area. Tunnelers from the Divide have migrated to the Mojave. Many great factions have pulled out or been lost in the chaos. Just overall awesome shit like that. So then as a survivor, you have to escape the Mojave, and you can only do this by reading notes and exploring. If you learn and pay attention, then you might be able to leave. I just love that concept of the Mojave being destroyed, and from what I gathered, it's extremely lore friendly. So, concluding here, that's what most likely what would happen if New Vegas had more than 18 months to develop the game. And a little bit of me talking about what I would like in New Vegas. Not as important. Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm stupid? Do you have any topics you'd like me to discuss? Let me know in the comments below. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Techtatious. You can follow me anywhere with Techtatious, because no one wants that stupid name except me. I love it. It's my name. There's a story behind it. Pretty bad, but anyway. You can check out my podcast, Podcrastination. It's posted here almost every Wednesday at 10. If you have any topic videos you'd like me to discuss, let me know in the comments. I can make more videos like this. I can make different types of videos. Whatever, just overall crazy stuff. It's going to be great. Yeah. Now, this is a really interesting topic that I honestly didn't know much about, but really researching and going down the rabbit hole, it was awesome, really. It was, yeah. Impressed. I'm impressed, Obsidian. Bethesda. Give them another game, god damn it. Everyone wants it. Just get rid of your pride, Jesus. Anyway, that's enough for me today. If you liked it, subscribe, like, shit, all that stuff. Should have said that earlier. Who cares? I'm babbling. Okay, I am leaving or doing fuck. Okay, bye-bye. Don't drink coffee before you record. You get very hyper. I learned in the bad way. Anyway, okay, goodbye.